How the economy machine works. The economic machine works in a simple mechanical way, consisting of simple transactions that are repeated over and over again. These transactions are driven by human nature and create three main forces that drive the economy: productivity growth, short-term debt cycle, and long-term debt cycle. Understanding transactions helps understand the whole economy, as they involve people, businesses, banks, and governments engaging in transactions. Transactions are the simplest part of the economy, as they involve buyers and sellers exchanging money and credit for goods, services, and financial assets. The government, consisting of a central government and a central bank, controls the amount of money and credit in the economy by influencing interest rates and printing new money. The central bank is an important player in the flow of credit. Credit is the most important part of the economy, as it is the biggest and most volatile part. It helps both lenders and borrowers get what they want, as they promise to repay the amount they borrow, called principal, plus an additional amount called interest. When interest rates are high, there is less borrowing because it's expensive, and when interest rates are low, borrowing increases because it's cheaper. Credit is created when borrowers promise to repay and lenders believe them, creating credit out of thin air. When credit is created, it immediately turns into debt, which is both an asset to the lender and a liability to the borrower. This self-reinforcing pattern leads to economic growth and cycles. Over time, we learn and accumulate knowledge, which raises our living standards. However, productivity matters most in the long run, while credit matters most in the short run. Debt allows us to consume more than we produce when we acquire it and forces us to consume less than we produce when we have to pay it back. Debt swings occur in two big cycles, with one taking about 5 to 8 years and the other 75 to 100 years. In this video, we will examine the three main forces that interact to make up our experiences: innovation, hard work, and credit. Swings around the line are not due to innovation or hard work, but rather to how much credit there is. In an economy without credit, the only way to increase spending is to increase income, which requires more productivity and work. Increased productivity is the only way for growth, and borrowing creates cycles. Understanding credit is important because it sets into motion a mechanical, predictable series of events that will happen in the future. Credit is different for money than money, as it is what you settle transactions with. When you buy a beer with cash, the transaction is settled immediately, but when you buy a beer with credit, it's like starting a bar tier. Together, you and the bartender create an asset and a liability, creating credit out of thin air. In an economy with credit, you can increase spending and allow incomes to rise faster than productivity over the short run. However, not over the long run. Credit isn't necessarily bad when it finances overconsumption that can't be paid back. It's good when it efficiently allocates resource versus and produces income so you can pay back the debt. In an economy with credit, we can follow the transactions and see how credit creates growth. For example, if someone earns $100,000 a year and has no debt, they can borrow $10,000 on a credit card, allowing them to spend $1,000 even though they only earn $1,000. This leads to an expansion, the first phase of the short-term debt cycle. When credit is easily available, there's an economic expansion, and when not, there's a recession. The central bank controls this cycle primarily. The short-term debt cycle typically lasts 5 to 8 years and happens over and over again for decades. The bottom and top of each cycle finish with more growth than the previous cycle and more debt. This is because people push for credit and spend more instead of paying back debt, creating the long-term debt cycle. Despite people becoming more indebted, lenders even more freely extend credit, as people think things are going great and focus on what's been happening lately. Understanding credit is crucial for understanding the dynamics of the economy and its impact on our experiences. The recent economic boom has led to a rise in incomes and asset values, resulting in a debt burden. This balance of incomes and asset values helps borrowers remain worthy for a long time. However, over time, debt burdens slowly increase, creating larger debt repayments. As debt repayments grow faster than incomes, people cut back on spending, making them less creditworthy and causing borrowing to decrease. This cycle of deleveraging occurs when people cut spending, incomes fall, and credit disappears. As debt repayments grow, borrowers become squeezed, and credit dries up, making them unable to borrow enough money to make their debt repayments. The deleveraging cycle is similar to a recession, but interest rates cannot be lowered to stimulate borrowing. In a deleveraging situation, borrowers' debt burdens have become too large to be fully paid back, and lenders feel crippled by the debt. Lenders stop lending, borrowers stop borrowing, and the economy becomes not creditworthy. To address this deleveraging, 4 ways can occur. 1. Cutting spending. 2. Debt reduction through defaults and restructurings. 3. Wealth redistribution. And 4. Central bank printing new money. These 4 ways have happened in every deleveraging in modern history. Spending cuts are usually the first step, as businesses and governments tighten their belts to pay down their debt. However, these cuts lead to a worsening of the debt burden, as incomes fall faster than debts are repaid, leading to a depression. Lenders often agree to debt restructuring, which reduces debt but causes income and asset values to disappear faster. Debt reduction is also painful and deflationary, impacting the central government as lower incomes and less employment lead to fewer taxes and increased spending. Many unemployed individuals need financial support from the government, and governments create stimulus plans to make up for the decrease in the economy. Government budget deficits can lead to deleveraging, where governments spend more than they earn in taxes. This can be funded by raising taxes or borrowing money. As incomes fall and unemployment increases, governments naturally raise taxes on the wealthy, facilitating a redistribution of wealth. This can lead to social disorder and increased tensions within and between countries. The central bank can print money, which is both inflationary and stimulative. By buying government bonds, the central bank lends money to the government, allowing it to run a deficit and increase spending through stimulus programs and unemployment benefits. This increases people's income and the government's debt, but lowers the economy's total debt burden. Policymakers need to balance the deflationary and inflationary ways to maintain stability. A beautiful deleveraging can be achieved by reducing debts relative to income, promoting real economic growth, and avoiding inflation. The right balance is essential for maintaining economic and social stability. This balance involves cutting spending, reducing debt, transferring wealth, and printing money. Printing money doesn't raise inflation as it offsets falling credit. Instead, the central bank needs to increase income growth and the rate of income growth above the rate of interest on accumulated debt. This means that income needs to grow faster than debt grows. For example, a country going through deleveraging has a debt-to-income ratio of 100%, which means that the amount of debt is the same as the income the entire country makes in a year. If debt grows at 2% due to interest rates, income growth will never reduce the debt burden. To avoid printing too much money and causing unacceptably high inflation, policymakers should avoid printing too much money and avoid causing unacceptably high inflation. Deleveraging can be difficult if handled poorly, but if handled well, it will eventually fix the problem. It takes roughly a decade or more for debt burdens to fall and economic activity to get back to normal. In summary, 3 rules to remember are: don't have debt rise faster than income, don't have income rise faster than productivity, and do all you can to raise productivity. This advice is simple and can be applied to policymakers and individuals alike. Thanks for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button.